exciting agenda for you today. You'll hear some opening remarks from myself and our board chair, Andrew Barnard. But what I want to focus on is that, as you've noted from our agenda, we're going to focus on 3 areas that are vitally important to the Pacific Northwest: fisheries, coastal hazards, and safe navigation. We're going to explore those with some of our members who are using apps within each of those categories. Our breakouts are really going to focus on how can we improve the system? What can NANOOS do for you to make the system better? We want your insights. And that's not just on the apps, that's on the broad categories: fisheries, coastal hazards, safe navigation. And if there's something outside of those categories, please share that with us. The other thing we want to spend time on is how do we increase the visibility of NANOOS? And so we're asking what can you do for NANOOS to help us out to be more discovered and therefore used by a greater percentage of the Pacific Northwest population. So we're going to have breakouts for those and then hear from those breakouts. And then in conclusion, as we synthesize, we also want to look forward. And as we've been mentioning in the emails, we want to continue the conversation. You know, it's been a while since we've been able to have virtual or in-person meetings, and it's time to make sure that we're connecting as a community. And so we have some ideas for a webinar series as part of that. And so we'll be asking for your input. So next slide, please. So I'm going to turn the baton over to Andrew Barnard for his comments. Andrew is the board chair of the NANOOS Governing Council Board. So over to you, Andrew. Thank you so much for your leadership, and thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Jan, and good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see so many people join today. I'm going to echo a lot of Jan's comments right here. It's so great to see so many faces here, and thank you all very much for your time to join this NANOOS community workshop. As Jan mentioned, we're all looking forward to the days when we can get back in person, but I'm really, really glad that you've all joined virtually for this meeting today. Particularly to focus on what Jan described: fisheries, coastal hazards, safe navigation, and serving, most importantly, delivering data and products and services to the coastal and ocean communities of the Pacific Northwest. This is just a bit of a bite of the apple right today, so it is very meaningful, and I appreciate everybody's support. But for me, it also really exemplifies NANOOS's focus on really truly serving our coastal communities through our stakeholders, our members, and more importantly, the public and private sectors that all are contributing to the Northwest health and economy through our oceans and our coastal areas. I really do want to again thank everybody for your time and participation today. It truly is an exemplar of how much your time and effort really contributes and makes NANOOS successful. So for me, NANOOS has done an amazing job in trying to be exceedingly proactive and working with the communities, working with the people, working with the stakeholders. This is what makes us strong, in my opinion. I don't want to take up too much more time in my opening statements. We have a very busy agenda today. I'm really looking forward to the conversations. And so with that, I'll turn that back over to Jan.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And it was fun. It allowed me the time to go through and look at all of the people signing in. And it's great to see so many people from the Pacific Northwest, but also people from much farther away, including California and Halifax. So thank you for joining us. We're really happy to have you here. Okay, so next slide. What I want to reflect on is that over 19 years ago, in 2003, we many of us who are here today, but many who weren't, came together to form NANOOS in response to what was going on nationally by the United States Integrated Ocean Observing System as it was being stood up. It had many permutations, ocean.us and that sort of thing. We came together and looked at the regions throughout the Pacific Northwest, the geographical regions, the coastal ocean, the major inland basins, coastal estuaries, shorelines, and the major rivers with their estuaries, and thought about what each of these, some of the issues that were relevant to those areas. But we didn't stop there. What we really focused on also, and most importantly, was who are the user groups, as we call them, who are interacting with these coastal ocean and estuarine and shoreline, coastal ocean and estuarine waters and shorelines, and thought about what their needs were. And that was the exciting thing about IUS, is that it was an ocean observing system that was built from the bottom up, understanding those needs and then figuring out the right system that could serve that instead of doing it vice versa. And so as we thought about this, we thought, where do we have observing assets and where do we need them? And so the next slide shows you where we've come to. This is a view figure from our 5-year proposal that was accepted last year to NOAA to sustain NANOOS for the next 5 years. We're in the first year of that. And this shows you where we have assets that are supported by NANOOS, and then some of those other symbols. And I know you can't read these, but it's on our NANOOS website, so you can check it out, where we propose to put additional assets and activities. And this is just the observing assets, but what was really important that we heard from our community early on is sustaining observations is critical. Long-term time series are critical, as well as having that real-time access to the information. So we worked on the observations, also the forecast models that you don't see here, but you can see from the NANOOS website. And then most importantly, how do we put all of this together for meaningful ways to deliver information? So the next slide shows what's evolved from that. And so if you click it once, this is our NANOOS visualization system, and the red square, I had to think about that. The red square shows you our data explorer. This is where you can access nearly every data stream that NANOOS supports. We also heard early on that that could be very overwhelming. And so if you click once more, we developed very focused, targeted apps. In fact, the tuna fishers app was our very first one. The 3 that are circled there are the ones that we're going to highlight today. They're some of our most popular ones: tsunami evacuation, recreational boaters, and tuna fishers. But if you click once more, you see that we have a whole host of other apps: surfers, shellfish growers, beach goers, scientists wanting to understand climatology. These are also incredibly powerful apps, and I want to reach out to you that if you use one of these other apps that we aren't highlighting, feel free to say, well, I'm in the boaters breakout, but I'd really like to say something about the shellfish growers app that I find frustrating or could be better or really useful. So we are focusing on those 3 because they're popular, and we wanted to provide a workable focus, but make sure that you embrace the width and breadth of what NANOOS has to offer. Feel very entitled to do that. So we've come a long way in being able to deliver the goods, but we don't want to stop there. We want to keep going. So the next slide is why we are here today, to explore with you in these categories broadly these three topics: coastal hazards. We know tsunamis. You'll hear about other coastal hazards that affect our region. Safe navigation. We're a region where there's a lot of recreational and commercial navigation, and we work to support both of those. And fisheries. I mentioned the tuna fishery, but there's other stocks and other fish of high relevance to our region, of course, salmon being one of them. It goes without saying. So the next slide. I want to harp a little bit on these questions. These are our objectives for the day. How can we improve the system? And this could be anything from, like, well, this app, if you did this, or it could be something like, I just don't see that much emphasis on jellyfish. I wish you guys were monitoring jellyfish. I'm just throwing that out there. Or I don't hear enough about the science that you're learning. I wish you guys were relaying that. So how can we improve the system? Can definitely involve the app, and we definitely want to hear from you. And thank you for filling out our surveys that have been incredibly useful to planning this workshop. And you'll hear from our leads on the results of those surveys, but feel free to think beyond that. And then the second objective, how do we increase the visibility of NANOOS? All of the folks that work and support NANOOS who are here with us today, and you'll be meeting them, Nick Rome, Roxanne Carini, Rachel Wold, and others that are involved in the system. I always tell them, let's not let NANOOS be the best kept secret. So how do we make sure that we're giving the federal taxpayers the best bang through NANOOS for their investment? And we're really fortunate for the congressional support. And I just want to take a moment to mention that if you are willing and able to do so, if you appreciate what NANOOS is and does, let your congressional delegation know. It could just be an easy email that just says, we are so supportive of or appreciative of what NANOOS does and as part of IUS, and thank you for the support. Our delegation really needs to hear from you and really appreciates that, and that really helps with the budget and the level of service we're able to give back to you. So, okay, next slide. So with that, I'm just going to take one more pass at this agenda. So what you're going to hear now is from leaders of each of these topical areas. Roxanne Carini, who works with NANOOS as a senior oceanographer. I'll let her introduce her user person, and Jonathan Allen, who works out of Oregon, the Dogami agency, and is a leader and is the chair of our NANOOS User Products Committee, works on coastal hazards, and Rachel Wold, who is no stranger to the boating community here. She works for NANOOS in our outreach and engagement capacity and has made a very strong connection to the boating community in Oregon and Washington. So you're going to hear a bit more about those topics, and then you're going to hear from three individuals who are willing to say, their interaction with the app and with NANOOS. And we're so thankful to each of you for being willing to do that.